Hello and welcome back to Pilates with Marilyn. I'm Marilyn Harder, Pilates instructor and Pilates master trainer. Today we will be working on our teaser. So if you're not sure what a teaser is, you'll know by the end of this episode, but it's an advanced variation within our Pilates repertoire. And we are going to really focus on releasing of the hip flexors, gentle activation, and core control to eventually progress ourselves up to it. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Let's come onto our backs in our supine position, and we're going to start with a hip releasing activity. So I want you to just take a moment in this nice elongated position and walk your shoulder blades away so that way your neck feels nice and long. Palms flip up towards the ceiling to allow the shoulder blades to lay flat. And I want you to just begin to breathe. A nice big inhale in through the nose. Exhale, blow out all that air. Feel those ribs draw together and down. Notice the bottom of the rib cage. Does it point directly to the top of that pelvic bowl? And let's match our breath. Big inhale in. Feel that pelvis roll to the natural curvature of the tailbone, creating a small inactive arch underneath our low backs. And exhale, blow out all the air, drawing the rib cage in down and rolling that pelvic bowl towards the earth. And we'll go again. Big inhale, open. And exhale, close. Notice if it feels like the hips or the quads are tugging on the pelvis, giving you a hard time rolling into imprint in this position. And let's go ahead and go one more. Big inhale, open. And exhale, closed. Hold your best closed position here. And now engage the glutes. Give yourself a little bun squeeze to help begin to stretch the front of those hips. Now I want you to roll the knees and toes open, feeling the stretch within the hip joint without disconnecting the ribs and lower abdominals. And then I want you to go ahead and release the glutes. Roll the knees in all the way as far as they'll go, and then engage the glutes again. Feel stretching here. My right side stretch, I feel like it wants to pull my knee up towards the ceiling. So I'm trying to really find that spiral and release. And then release the glutes, roll the knees open, and engage the glutes and find that activation. Now, if you are lucky enough to have a reformer, a really wonderful stretch here is in legs and straps, where you externally rotate, bring the heels together at the bottom, and then internally rotate, toes up at the top. It does the same thing. And release. Now, I want you to roll the knees open. We're going to keep the glutes on the entire time and really take a moment and try and walk the heels away, decompressing the hips just a bit. Keep the glutes firing and then actively roll the knees inward and see if you hit a resistance point right versus left. And let's do that again. Roll the knees open. And you might be thinking, what are we doing here? We are activating our glutes against the tight spaces on the hips. We are using our glute activation to stretch out hip flexors and get out of our quad dominance that often overtakes our teaser. Let's go ahead and go one more and then come back to center. All right, we're going to roll over onto our bellies. And we're going to do a hamstring activation single leg kick. So in our prone position here, I want those hands down on the floor, shoulders draw back and down, and let your head just rest looking off to one side. Let's flex our feet and walk our hips open, creating a little bit of space in that low back. Pressing that pubic bone forward, exhaling, floating that rib cage up. I want you to go ahead and engage the glutes and allow the leg to lift. Now pause there. That low back should not have closed when you did so. So you want to keep that pubic bone down, tailbone reaching towards the heel, and then release back down. So this is our prep work, little swimming. Engage the other side. Pause. Think about really opening up through that hip. Really reach that toe away. My right side definitely feels stickier than the left, and release it back down. Let's alternating right and left. Now, if you are working at more of an advanced variation and you can maintain that neutral spine, float both legs up and then engage deeper, alternating right and left in that swimming position. I like it about mat distance here while we're working on our opening up of that hip flexor, because I can really maintain my neutral there. If you like to bring it in a little closer, you can, activating that inner thigh, just don't lose your neutral. All right, we'll pick up the pace if you can. If you lose your neutral, you slow it back down. We're activating the glutes again in the other direction against those hip flexors, extending or opening up the front of that hip. And we'll go 3 and 2 and 1. Good, release it on down. All right, reset for a moment, shaking anything out that built up. I like a windshield wiper, just like on the front. Again, we're opening up the hip joint. Don't let the hips roll and follow. Just allow the legs to roll only as far as you can maintain neutral. All right, let's go ahead and come back to center, extending those legs out nice and long, pressing that pubic bone forward. We're going to go into a single leg kick. Now, a single leg kick is a hamstring curl, flexing through the foot or pointing, your choice. I like flex to get a little bit more activation and not allowing my pelvis to change. I'm drawing the heel towards my buns as far as I can while pushing that pubic bone forward. And then I'm going to point and release, lengthening it away. Now, I encourage flexing when people are still trying to find the connections of the hamstring, because for me, that creates a deeper connection. However, if you feel like flexing turns on the top or the front of that leg, point as you draw that heel towards the glute. This is also considered more of that true progression here. Now, I can feel my hamstring in both directions, both in activating towards my glutes and then also resisting as I lengthen it away. We're going to deepen it even further by adding a double. So we're going to draw that heel down towards the glute, added a little double flex, and then point it away. It adds a deeper stretch to the front of that leg. Now we're going to draw it up. My knee leaves the earth as I get greater extension of the hip. Give me a double kick and then extend. One thing you'll notice in my body, and hopefully in yours, that there's no change in the pelvis. There's no arching through the low back as you continue. Let's even out right to left. And then we'll go ahead and pause. Okay, let's go ahead and sit back and stretch out anything that may have built up into your low back. Taking a nice good deep breath into that back body. Feeling that rib cage really expand in all directions. All right, we're going to go ahead and swing around into a sideline position. So in the sideline position, we really want to work on strengthening that glute med. So I want you to down slip the top hip, reaching it away, and elongate the crown of the head in the other direction so that bottom rib cage lifts. Make sure the ribs are stacked up one over the other. Exhaling, rib cage activates against the shoulder blades and the hips are stacked. Now I'm going to have you elongate that top leg and making sure, again, we've got that small little peak of air underneath the rib cage. Let's go ahead and open up the hip by engaging the glutes, elongating that hip flexor like we just did on our bellies, and in lift and lower. So as you continue to move, the goal here is to really activate that gluteus medius. Because when we go into our full teaser, when our glutes are active, the wind is blowing in here. When the glutes are active, we can really support the weight of the leg. If the glutes are not active, we're going to support the weight of the leg with the hip flexor, which causes sometimes low back pain as well. We'll go ahead and go 3 more. And 2. Okay, then we're going to pause and hold with it up there. And I really want you to reach that leg away. Try and roll the knee up towards the ceiling into an external rotation. Engage the glute, take it behind you again, and let's lift and lower. Now, as you continue to lift and lower, I really want you to focus in on, can you get that glute to activate anymore? We really want it to be on and firing with our glute max, which is our main posterior, aka buns, activating muscles. And we'll go ahead and go for, just making sure my hips aren't rolling back. 3, 2, you may notice it's smaller than in parallel, and 1, go ahead and bring those legs in. Let's deepen the activation, reset our alignment. Inner thigh activates to lift the bottom heel, and we're going to lift and lower that top leg into the clams. So as you continue to clam, really focus. Can you keep that rib cage closed? Pause. So as you continue to lift and lower, can you keep that rib cage closed and that bottom of the diaphragm, or that circular rib cage, right stacked over the circular part of, or the top of the bowl of the pelvic bowl? Ooh, starting to feel some good burn here. I hope you are too. Last one. Lift it up, lower that bottom leg to really press into the earth. Make sure you're really in good alignment. Open the knee just a bit more and give me 3 circles. 3 and 2 and 1. Reverse it. 3 and 2 and 1. Good. Let's roll over onto our backs and give ourselves a figure 4 stretch, crossing that ankle over the other knee and really going in for that release. I'm going to start warming up my abdominals in that chest lift, pulling myself in to a deeper stretch. Really releasing through that gluteus medius, anything that's tight. Now, I want you to notice my body here in space. Notice how my tailbone is anchored down versus rounded up. This rounded position is going to really dump into your low back. Lengthening that tailbone away will keep it into those abdominals and protect the low back. Last good deep breath. And then let's go ahead and uncross the knees and come into a nice tight bowl. We've not warmed up our abdominals here, so I'm going to support the head with the right hand, and I'm going to extend out that right leg. And I'm just going to pull in nice and tight, give myself a little double pulse here, little stretch. And then as I draw my right knee in, I'm going to extend my left arm up over my head. Giving myself an activator here. And switch. Draw that knee in, give myself a pulse. And I want to really feel like the leg is light. And as I draw it in, arm comes in opposition. We'll go one more here. Draw it on in, give me a double chin. Pulse. And then switch. Opposition. Draw back to center. Give yourself a nice tight ball, set down your head. And look right to left. Now let's support with the other hand. Taking that left hand back behind our head, we'll come up into a nice tight ball, extend out that left leg until it's long, really trying to press that pubic bone open. Remember, elongating the hip flexors, finding that posterior activation. Give ourselves that double pulse. And then as we draw it in, we're going to switch, take that arm out nice and long. Now I want you to really support the weight of the head with the mid back here. So shoulder draws back and down. Little pulse, and switch. Trying to keep that core nice and flat. Give me a double chin. Draw it in, come up 1 more inch. Pulse, and then switch. Pull those knees on in, set that head down. Giving it a moment for the motorcycle to go away. He revs a bit. Go ahead and pull those knees in, set the head down, and let's look from right to left. Set those toes down carefully, one at a time, maintaining imprint and control of the core. All right, extend those legs out. We're going to roll up, and then we're going to switch to the other side for our sideline position. The roll up is a precursor for our teaser. So big inhale here, glutes are firing, hips are open, we're not imprinted, chest lift up, roll and round it up. Really think about lifting up through the spine, curling over an imaginary picket fence, and then restack it back up nice and tall. Swivel around to the other side, and let's come into that sideline position. Stacking our shoulder over shoulder, rib over rib, hip over hip. We're going to extend out that top leg, reach in an opposition, just like we did before. We want to engage the glute to open up that front of that hip flexor, and we will lift and lower. Now, as you lift and lower, I want you to really focus in on pressing that pubic bone forward, engaging that glute, and maintaining your connections. Bottom rib is lifted, top oblique is elongated. And keep it into that gluteus medius. And we'll go 2 more. Pause. Everyone's very noisy today, Bella. I'm sorry. Okay, pause. Engage that glute, take it back behind you, roll the knee up towards the ceiling, and let's lift and lower in that deep external rotation. Remember, we want to maintain that elongation in both directions, keeping the rib cage stacked over that pelvic bowl. We want to keep the hip flexor open. And we'll go 3 and 2, and last one. Let's tuck both legs in. Actively engage that bottom inner thigh. I like my heels in line with my glutes. That's where I feel the most activation through that clam, and go into that lift and lower. Thinking about really reaching that knee open and away, and in opposition of the crown of my head, and lifting and activating that rib cage. Your hand can always leave the floor, but I always like to give myself the assist or the touch point of making sure I know where my body is in space, my kickstand hand. And we'll go 4. Keep going. Make sure you really isolate it. Don't let gravity just drop your leg back down. Resist in both directions. And last one, sit down that bottom leg. Let's see if we can externally rotate that leg just a bit more. And let's give it 3 circles. Draw in those abdominals. And if you're not burning, congratulations. Your glute med is getting nice and strong. Go slower. Do more. And done. Let's roll over onto our backs and give ourselves that figure 4 stretch. Just like before, I'm going to pull myself up into that chest lift and get that nice good activation. Pulling into a really nice tight ball. Elongating the tailbone away, giving a greater stretch. Good. And then I'm going to go ahead and release, but hold it up nice and tight. Now you can set the head down, which will build greater elongated endurance, or you can leave the head up, which you'll feel that burn just a bit more. It isn't technically more, but you'll feel it more. Now, either way, let's go ahead and send those knees away, maintaining that imprint. Find the core engagement. Now toe taps here. Toe taps are all about stability of the deep abdominals and that pelvis without arching, moving, or rocking. If you want to add a little rotation here, it makes it more challenging into the obliques, which will give you a more dynamically connected teaser. So, move in a way that feels very intuitive and connective to your body, and know that you can always come back and revisit variations if they're not perfect today. All right, let's bring it on in. Give ourselves a little rock in one direction, little rock in the other, and elongate those legs. We're gonna roll up to a seated position and practice our teaser balance. So inhale here, exhale, chest lift up, circle those arms around this time, roll and round it up and over that imaginary picket fence, and stack it back up nice and tall. All right, we're gonna go ahead and take this into a teaser balance. If you have an everted Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take this into a teaser balance. If you have an everted tailbone, or it's uncomfortable to balance on the tailbone, or you feel shifting and clicking into the deep low back, this is not going to be for you. So at that point, I would go ahead and call this the end of the workout. Otherwise, we will move on to our teasers. So we're gonna start in a tall seated position. I've got my knees bent, hands on top of my shins. I'm going to exhale, draw the deep low belly into the spine, or rounding it back like our roll downs, finding the balance point between the tailbone and the sits bones. Find a little tiptoe with both of the toes and make sure you do feel like you are at a balance point. You can keep those hands on the shins or move them behind the knee and float the knees up into a tabletop position. In our 12th episode, we balanced a ball in our tabletop position here to help us connect. Now you can always revisit here. Now hands behind those legs, just make sure you don't feel this in the low back. Can you squeeze the gluteus medius and maybe open the knees just a bit to find a turned out tabletop here? Isn't that lovely wind? Pause, pause, pause. Okay. In that turned out tabletop, we're going to extend one leg, giving ourselves a nice good stretch. Can we maintain this without feeling it into the low back? And then the other. See if you can really exhale and draw the lower abdominals in. And draw it back in. See if we can extend one arm and reach without feeling it into our low back. Draw in those abdominals. And then the other. More buns, more abs means less hip flexors and low back. Let's go ahead and restack. Come out of it for a moment. Maybe give yourself a forward fold stretch. Just releasing anything that built up. Now, you can keep your workout there, or we're going to take it into full teaser. We're going to begin with a roll down. Arms out in front of you. Drawing in those abdominals in the same way we just found that balance point. Drawing ourselves backwards in space, deep double chin, shoulders back and down, slowly articulating it back down. Now, just like our roll up, Now, just like our roll up, we're going to start in the same chest lift position. Now, as soon as we see those toes, we can start floating them up in opposition. And if you need to, you grab behind those legs. Otherwise, you come up as tight as you can. I'm just going to hold my legs just to demonstrate this. And I want you to think about drawing the shoulders down. Reach the crown of the head in one direction, toes in the other. See if we can reach towards those toes. Now draw to the deep low belly to take that low back down, and then slowly allow those legs to lower in opposition of the upper body. We'll do that again. Big inhale there at the bottom, shoulders back and down. Exhale, chest lift up. As soon as you see your toes, they can start floating up in opposition. Reach, 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 reach. Now pause there. Don't judge your teaser. If you are tight, the legs won't lift as much. If your arms or legs are different weights, you're going to have to counterbalance just a bit different. So know these are individual differences. Let's grab behind those legs, stack back up, and excellent job today. So there is our teaser prep workout, and each of the things will build upon each other to give you greater stabilization, activation, and progression to the full variations. So let's place the bottoms of the feet together, knees open wide, and we're going to hinge forward, giving ourselves just a stretch through those hips, anything that's built up through that low back. Now teaser, like I said, does have a tendency to build up into the low back, so don't judge it. Just know more lower abdominal activation, more hip release, and more glute med or glute support, and the happier that teaser will become. And let's rotate the other way. We're just stretching out through the QL, which is on the lower back to the right or left side. Sometimes gets into this work. And then we'll restack back up to center. And excellent job today. I hope you enjoyed it. If teaser is not for you, just know there's a lot of really great things in this workout that will progress your strength. Teaser is a celebration of what our body can do when we are active, in line, and our skeletal structure is supposed to load it. So just know if you have things in your low back, your sacrum, your tailbone, these would not be a celebration to your body. So celebrate accordingly. Great job on the work that you put in, and thank you for practicing self-care today. You are worth it.